International Film Festivals. Oh, there we go. I'm on. Sorry for that. I thought my video wasn't on. Welcome to the Durban International Film Festivals 2021 edition. We're now doing the second technical session, and we're going to be looking at the Swift Strides, sisters working in film and television, rather, are going to be in conversation with myself, Toki Mohoto, and we're going to be deliberating on matters that affect women filmmakers, as well as how they then participate, view the industry, add weight, and share their expertise in as far as transformation, expansion, as well as cross-pollination is concerned. Ladies, welcome to this technical session, and I hope you are doing good today.
Thank you, Toki.
Kindly, by way of introduction, just maybe share briefly as to who my honored or esteemed panel members are, and how then do you relate with Swift?
Hi, I'm Jessica, and I'm part of the Swift board. I come from KZN, and I have been with this panel since 2019, and I worked for DIF in 2019 as well. So I'm familiar with the festival and familiar with the Isipetu manager, Sakile, and I'm very excited to be talking about a proposed partnership between Isipetu and Swift later on in the session.
Do you mind, Jessica, when we return to that again, if you could just show us your visuals as well? We can hear you clearly, but we can't see your visual.
Yes, no, my bandwidth is not strong. So if I put my video on, it's going to drop me from the call. That's why I've kept it off.
Lucky enough, we are in the film. Imagination thrives. We're going to imagine we see Jessica. The next panel member can introduce themselves, please.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Zanele Mthembu. I'm the current chairperson of Swift, and my background is really as a broadcast executive and currently working more as executive producer on different projects in the industry.
Great stuff. Thank you for that.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jacintha Nobrega. I am on the board of Swift. I'm the vice chairperson. I am based in Durban as a film and television producer, and I'm excited to talk to everybody today. Thank you.
Great stuff. Safe to say, we have 3 panel members, and we're going to be in conversation.
One more person.
Oh, thank you.
One more. Hi, my name is Rea Moeti. I am a board member of Swift. I head up a subcommittee called Sisterhood Cinema that we'll be talking about a little bit later. I'm based in Johannesburg. I'm a writer and I'm a director, and I run a production company here based in Johannesburg.
Great stuff. We're now balanced. We've got 2 in Gauteng and 2 in Durban. So we're looking for a decider. So we now know that we have an organization called Sisters Working in Film and Television. For the benefit of those who may not be aware of who Swift is, kindly take us through when it was founded, what was the premise behind its conception, as well as how then has it allowed women to participate fruitfully as well as equitably within the film sector or TV even. Any takers?
Yeah, this one is for Jacintha.
Sure.
Okay, yes. So Swift was formed, I'm not sure exactly, but around about 4 or 5 years ago, actually at the Durban International Film Festival by a group of women who really saw the need to have a network of women so that we can look at equal opportunities, looking at skills and mentorship. And one of the issues at that time was also to ensure that women are safe on sets. With the studies that came out, we found that there is there's this sexual harassment that is rife on sets. And so that's where it was born. And in the last few years, it's become a really large network of members, really focusing on mentoring, skills development. We have Sisterhood Cinema. There's also a program that we've run, and we'll chat about it later, the SEO, which is the Safety Contact Officer. Really, these are women that ensure there is some safety on set for crew and cast. And so, a major, I think for us, the biggest push would be around equity and how do we ensure that women are getting the same opportunities. And when we talk about that, for me, it's also about equal pay for equal work, because we do know there is a discrepancy around that in the industry. So as a network of women, we're really there to support and help grow the industry. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. Rea, you want to add? Okay.
I think that, yes, I'm adding. The importance of having an organization that is by women, for women, is also to offer a safe space to have certain discussions about the experiences that we have as practitioners in the industry. A lot of the time, you think you're alone when you're going through certain experiences. And the other very important thing for us is to network. So when we are looking for crews, we're looking for other practitioners. We search first, well, a lot of us anyway, we search amongst our pool of members. We spread the word there to say, ladies, I'm looking for a writer, I'm looking for an ED, I'm looking for this and that. And even if we don't have female practitioners who are available for those roles, you can get references from your fellow members, to say, I have worked with this person and I would recommend, or I wouldn't, I'd be careful of this or the other. So it's for various reasons that we have formed this group so that we can have access to each other, that is formed within the safe space, so that we know that we can engage each other on topics that relate to the things that Jacintha mentioned. But beyond that, even on a personal level, how do you cope with having to divide your time in the home and with being on set, or demands or certain things that come up, like if I find out I'm pregnant while I'm in a production, how do you think this should be handled, or what is the advice to deal and handle with such issues? So, we hope that this creates conversations around our professionalism and how we handle things as women in our profession.
Thank you for those introductions. And South Africa is quite a complex country to begin with, right? Given that we have got multiple races that live here, we've got different socioeconomic scales, and obviously our geographies differ. One would then ask, how do I become a member of SWIFT? Who's eligible to become a member must be based in Gauteng, in KZN, in Cape Town, areas which are predominantly known to be active in film and TV. Or can anyone around South Africa participate as a member? And what benefits then does one stand to gain from participating as a member?
Okay. Any woman classified in terms of gender, would put it that way, or however they identify, but first and foremost in terms of gender, being a female, you can be a member of SWIFT. It's not restricted to any specific geographic area in South Africa, so we're open to women in the entire country. And we as SWIFT are really big on embracing the intersectionality of women, so it's all women of all races, all creed, all ability, disability, it's really open to all women as long as you have an interest in the South African film and television industry or are already participating in the film and television industry. You are eligible to be a member. We do happen to have, as you said, Toki, more concentration or at least branches in KZN, Durban specifically, Johannesburg, as well as Cape Town, particularly because those are the areas where there are a lot of productions happening. However, we are looking to open branches in different areas. We had started a branch in Limpopo, in Polokwane specifically, and we are really looking to grow that. Now that the Eastern Cape has a film hub, we're looking for opportunities to open a branch and actually connect with women that are working in the Eastern Cape to open a branch there. So we try by all means to cover, the whole of South Africa and ensure that we have quite a number of women to form part of SWIFT. As you know, that it really depends on, we need a critical mass, actually. Critical number of women to be able to drive, change even in terms of policy, but mostly to advocate for women in the industry. It's always better if we do it as a larger group of people.
I'm still going to go further into detail with regards to the presidential employment stimulus packages, right? And how then SWIFT engages that. I'm also going to go into how SWIFT and Isipetu are going to be partnering in 2022, as well as ARIF, right? But my point that I want to drive now is, when you look at South Africa, right, the landscape, recently I think you may have seen where one of Amandebele activists, Utando Mahlangu, went on TV to say Amandebele are being left out in the main, right? From participation in TV to their culture being almost obsolete, as well as South Africa, as I said, being a multiracial, as well as a country which to a degree is celebrated for so many things, but then saying these are the hubs of film and television, but the ones that are outside will still be embraced. How has SWIFT tried to engage with these different stakeholders who feel that their voice, or as well as their culture and heritage, isn't necessarily being seen on TV and film?
I think Rea will come in here as part of Sisterhood Cinema, just to talk about the stories. But, one of the ways in which as SWIFT we ensure the diversity and diverse voices within the industry, particularly female voices, is really through the stories that we tell and ensuring that the stories that we tell are representative of, the different groups in South Africa, the different nationality, what do you call them? Tribes, nationalities in South Africa. Oh, there's so many, how many? Anyway, we won't get into that right now. But what we're also doing is, for instance, at the moment, we have a partnership with the German Development Agency on gender sensitivity training to make sure even the stories that we tell are gender sensitive. So we're constantly looking at ways of making sure that we have proper representation, and proper in the sense that, it's not the stereotypes that we see in terms of representation, either of women or other cultures as well in the stories that we tell. But I'll also hand over to Rea as part of Sisterhood Cinema so that she can speak about that aspect of it and the reason why it was even set up as a subcommittee within SWIFT, because it will answer your question as well.
Might I ask Rea to just pause a bit? Whilst I still have you, Zanele, I just want to ask with regards to membership, right, and who is eligible to participate. We've got sister countries around the SADC area, particularly, who have a vested interest in South Africa, right? Are they also allowed to form partnerships as well as have some strategic relations with SWIFT whilst it's based in South Africa?
Yes, we do have partnerships. In fact, even at the launch of SWIFT in 2017, we had different members, women from around the continent that were part of it and were instrumental and gave input and direction in terms of the formation of SWIFT. And those relationships continue. We don't have as yet like formal relationships that we have formed with women. Mainly, we're still a very young organization, so we're trying to first solidify our footing in the country before we can even venture out into, for instance, Southern Africa and have partnerships with women's organizations in those countries. But we have individuals from other countries, like a very big proponent of SWIFT is Tsitsi Dangaremba from Zimbabwe, who is always available to give direction and to assist and also to partner with us on some aspects. So we are looking to actually grow that once SWIFT is on a solid footing within the country itself first.
Great stuff. Rea, please share with us with regards to Sisterhood Cinema.
Yes. So Sisterhood Cinema is an organization that is basically set up, well, not an organization, but a subcommittee within SWIFT organization, which is set up to really promote and explore the films and content that has been made by female practitioners. So not just necessarily those women who are part of our member group, but celebrating all women who are making films, who are directors, who are writers, who are cinematographers. We often have a lot of women who participate in films in very specific departments, like makeup and wardrobe would usually be women.
Yes.
Our production team would usually have a lot of women. But what we have noticed is that, we don't really find so many films, not at an equal scale anyway, that are at, held at the helm or led by female creatives as directors, as DOPs, as editors. And those are really the kind of films, or writers even, those are the kind of films that we're really looking to explore and share, with as many audiences as possible. We have, for instance, that's part of our comms team, which, Jacintha kind of oversees the Friday Filmmaker Friday, Female Filmmaker Friday. And that's celebrated, across the globe. But we also participate in that to say, every Friday we want to shout out women in our industry, in our member group, in our field globally, from Ava DuVernay, who's just made something, to somebody who's not necessarily a part of SWIFT, but who is playing at a global scale right now, to someone who is a junior, a graduate, and is a SWIFT member who's just made her graduate film, that is now at DIF or that is at a film festival anywhere else across the globe. So those are the kind of things that we are looking to be a part of, and the narrative that we want to spread, that there are films out there that may not be in the blockbuster circuit, but they can be compelling films that are made by our local talent. We have started something called the Watch Along, and one of the first ones that we did was a film that was made as part of the NFVF female slate. I mean, for a few years now, the NFVF has had this program every year making 10 short films that are made by I don't want to say first-time filmmakers, but people who may have been practitioners in the industry in any other capacity. But this time they've written their own film, they've directed their own film, and their voice is being heard in a different way from how they've been practitioners throughout the years. And we had, we did a watch along with our member group, and we invited everyone, we put it out there on social media and everywhere to say, let's watch together. And then afterwards there's a Q&A with the filmmakers, with the producer, and let's hear their journey. So that's what really our subcommittee is about. We invite filmmakers who have made films and not necessarily are looking for publicity. We're not like this marketing platform, but we are here to celebrate with the filmmaker and to put word out there that there's a lot of talent in our country that is particularly female, and we need to sort of hear it out and support.
So there's a short question that comes to mind. When I hear of the conceptual framework of Sisterhood Cinema, right, it presupposes an exclusivity to women alone. My question then would be, how then does this transcend gender barriers where one may assume that since it's made by women for women, then it means I, as a male, may not necessarily participate, or the content may not necessarily speak to me. Kindly allay some fears or concerns that may arise from such misinterpretations.
Before anyone else takes this, let me just say, when we say Black Lives Matter, we don't follow up by saying all lives matter. In this context, it is the female voice that we are saying in particular we want to give strength and particular attention to. And that is not to say then men are excluded. You know, when Black Lives Matter, the white people in any other race jump on, and we can champion for that together. So that anyone else can.
Well, I think just to add, women have been marginalized for years and years and years. And so how do you bring them up to the level in an equal footing? And for us, it's just really about supporting women. So there's no doubt that we've been marginalized. So it's not about, ignoring the other genders. And there's also been, there's been many, many movies made by men, male directors, but it's a female story, and it's by time that we as women, and they talk about the female gaze, like the male gaze. And what that means to me is like, we're telling stories from our perspective. We have a unique perspective as women. So it's important to give that platform to women to actually express that. Zanele, go ahead.
I just wanted to come in there. I think both you and Rea have really covered it, but it's really about ensuring that this new, particularly, we're talking about Africa's time is now. Mm. We want to ensure that in this new Africa, the women are not left behind. The women are represented. The women tell the stories, and they are part of this change that we are seeing on the continent. But most significantly, I think, for just us as Swift, is that the reason we are even doing this in the first place is to really show other women that it can be done, and it is being done. Mm-hmm. It starts with motivating women who may not really think that what I'm about to embark on now is something that can be done. So by showcasing other women who have actually done it, we're encouraging them to say what you are thinking is the correct kind of thinking. You definitely can be a cinematographer. We may only have 2 or 3 right now, but the direction in which you are going is the correct direction. And these women, as Rea mentioned, are then given a platform to share their experience so that those that have the same aspiration can at least have a realistic, view of what that journey would entail and what they should be prepared for as they embark on the journey. So it's important that we inspire and encourage other women through these formations to say it can be done.
I'm certain all of us.
To add to that, we also have male partners, who may not necessarily be part of the member group of Swift, but they are people who support Swift and who work with us in certain programs to give light to some of the topics and especially in terms of the advocacy issues that we deal with. So we in many ways welcome male partnerships and to work with male organizations that deal with similar issues that we tackle or that affect all of us as an industry. So we do not block out the male voice or participation. We are absolutely open to it. However, we just don't have members inside of the organizations that are male. But yes, we do work with other men.
Great stuff. Here's another question. Earlier this morning on the first session, I had Katie Taylor from the Film School Africa Institute, right? And one of the key points that we were discussing was the issue of access, funding, as well as then promoting content that is relevant to local citizens, but at the same time is globally relevant. And the question I then have is, how has the lockdown through COVID-19, how has it affected the film sector, particularly Swift and its programs, and then also bring in the PESP program that you ran?
Would that be Jess?
Yes, sorry, I was talking and I didn't realize I was muted. Sorry.
Sorry for that.
Okay, so we ran the PESP program between April and June this year. And I can say it was a success because approximately 80 females across 4 provinces graduated with a certificate of competence in film and television production. And over the course of the 3 months, we asked them to do specific projects to grow themselves as filmmakers. And the first project that they did was a PSA, public service announcement. So they needed to create a video. And what we did, I think this was across all of the provinces, we made them rotate roles. So all of them had a chance to be the director, a producer, a scriptwriter, cinematographer, and editor. And they ran out the PSP for the first month, and that was their project for the first month. And in KZN, I made them do an extra project. I asked them to pretend that they were launching their YouTube channel and to create their brand, because we did a brand awareness module as well. And I said, promote your channel on YouTube. So create a video and put yourself there and make an introduction video introducing your channel and tell people about your channel and why they should follow you. So that was just something extra that I did in KZN. But the PSA was really well done. I was quite impressed with the level of or the standard of work that they produced. And I'm sure Zanele will also come in and tell you about Gauteng. And in the following month, we asked them to do a 1-minute no dialogue narrative. So they needed to put a film together without any words being spoken, but everything needed to make sense. So it was a non-verbal film whereby the actions had to speak. In the film. And that as well, I was very impressed with the level and the standard of work that the girls produced. The final month was going to be their big film because it was a 5-minute documentary that they needed to produce. And they worked themselves up in those smaller productions in order to make the 5-minute documentary. And some of them, I have to say that I actually told them they should just submit it for short film festivals because it was that good. And then at the end of it, I told them to make a quick fire video summing up their experience over the 3 months and what kind of skills they came in with and what skills they were leaving the program with. So we put together that video. So in KZN, I made them do 5 videos in total. And I had 18 females that graduated in KZN, and across the 4 provinces we had I think we had full complement in Limpopo, in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, and I think in Limpopo. So I'll let Zanele jump in and talk about Gauteng's rollout of the project, but it was an overall success, and we had approximately 80 females across the country that came out with these certificates, and they can now go and apply for jobs in the industry because they've worked in all of those different roles.
Okay, there isn't much more to add because the program was really similar in the different provinces. What I'd like to do is really just to answer the first part of your question around the effects of COVID-19 on, I think the entire industry was just adversely affected by COVID-19. And as a freelance industry that really relies on jobs, it really impacted a lot of us quite negatively. And, the kind of, and I think we were the longest in lockdown before regulations opened up for us, which made it even worse for this industry. However, through organizations like SASFED, we're able to rally and, for funding for this industry, which we fortunately were able to receive through the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Netflix and another international organization contributed money. So that's how the major part of the industry was really assisted through the drought, if I might put it that way, last year. But what then came about in the form of the presidential employment stimulus package really came to the aid of the industry in at least ensuring that employment is retained for some organizations, particularly for productions. And in our case, that we're able to offer new entrants into the industry an opportunity to further themselves and to gain more skills and to have some kind of portfolio of evidence that they can then utilize in order to get jobs, because we know how difficult it is in this industry to enter without anything to show for what we are capable of. So the portfolio of evidence will assist them in showing prospective employers in the form of producers that I have been in this program and this is what I was able to do in this specific role. So it assists in that case. But we definitely were adversely affected by it, and were it not for the assistance of partly government and international organizations, I think we would be in a worse off situation than we are now, and we are still trying to recover. We are still trying to recover as a sector, just to get back to where we were before. But what that period has also done, Toki, is that it has assisted us in really finding different ways, being innovative in terms of how we tell those stories and how we get the stories out. And we've been pushed into mainly embracing the digital space in a way that we've never thought. It may have been maybe a few years away before COVID, but now we know that it is here, and it is a vehicle that we definitely can use to get our stories. We do not stories out. We do not have to rely on the broadcasters who have their own requirements and their own positioning in terms of the stories that they want to commission. But any story that we want to tell, we have an opportunity to tell that story. And to Rea's point, talking about sisterhood cinema, the digital space has offered us that opportunity, that these stories that would ordinarily not be commissioned by broadcasters can now be out there to be seen and to be viewed by the public, which is great strides in terms of where we have been. It's a great opportunity for women to really be able to tell their stories on their own terms.
Whilst you're on this subject, I just want to borrow briefly from one of the conversations I had in the morning with Katie Taylor. We looked at the issue of funding, right? And we know that capital is predominantly a male-dominated field. How then does SWIFT engage with this predominantly male-dominated field, as well as then ensuring that there's a balance in as far as investment, as well as a return on it, plus access, as well as qualitative empowerment specifically for women who were previously marginalized in the sector?
Okay, maybe I'll just start off that.
Sure.
I think when we talk about, there's a lot of funding available, right? And there is a focus to fund women. Mm-hmm. However, there is just not many women are applying for those funds. And we as SWIFT have definitely, held workshops and talks around how do you access that funding. It's there, but what are the skills? What do you need to do to access that funding? We know that I wouldn't say the funding is male dominated. I would say there are other areas, distribution, marketing, executive producers, people that sign off, they are male. That part of the value chain is dominated by men. And so it does become harder. And we know that this industry is relationship based. So for women to get into that, it is harder. I myself as a producer, it's been very hard to get into that space. But I think for me, it's about, how do you strategically align yourself and be clear about what is your business plan? Be clear about how do you see yourself and your business going into this industry. And that's, for me, it's a lot about business skills. It's not just about mentoring, but how do we upskill women to that level? So yeah, that's my bit of it. Anyone else can add?
Yeah, I think our biggest challenge, Toki, and that's something that we have to confront as women, and I think I've said this a number of times on different platforms, is that even though as women naturally we do gravitate towards supporting one another and working with one another. I mean, we're mostly women of color here. Specifically black myself and Rea, who come from those backgrounds where our mothers always collaborated in stokvels and worked together. It's something we're still not getting right as women in the industry of collaborating and working together. The reality in our industry is that there are women who predominantly are white women who have been around for many years in our industry and have not particularly opened up the space as much to embrace other women, particularly women of color that have come along, in instances where there have been partnerships, those partnerships have not lasted as long. And we are hoping, and they have the capital. I mean, there are businesses that have been around for years that are run by white women, but they just have not been very intentional, if I may use the word, in ensuring that they use their experience and they use the capital that they've been able to raise. These are women with studios, these are women with the entire infrastructure in place to then assist the women that are coming up behind them. So it's not so much from a lack of capital being there, it's a lack of collaboration and lack of investment in other women who happen to be women of color that are not invested in and are not assisted. Jacintha and I had a conversation yesterday that, it's not so much about that we need help, like we're not able to. No, we're more than capable of doing the work. And we have to be recognized as such. Rea has produced, directed and written a number of films, have Jacintha. Myself, I come from the broadcast environment. So we're not women that cannot do. We just need to be given the opportunity to do so, but also to be recognized as peers, not necessarily as people that need to be helped up. So that need to be helped or be given. No, we are peers in this thing who just happened to not have had the advantages compared to other women. So that's the challenge that we have, and we can't, out of this discussion, leave out the issue of those that have been privileged, who happen to be white women, against black women, as opposed to black women or women of color that have the capability, but just have not had the opportunity to be able to really participate fully in what this industry has to offer.
I'd like to touch on two other issues. One is the legal framework, right, around the creative sector broadly. But I want to speak in particular with regards to policy that emphasizes and prioritizes women, but at the same time, at what level does SWIFT engage in terms of how is a contract structured? How do you, as a filmmaker, as an actress, or as a creative within the spectrum of film, participate and engage with the legality so that, one, your rights are respected, but at the same time, you get what is due to you, regardless of your gender, state, and what have you? Okay.
As SWIFT, we form part of SASFED, the South African Screen Federation. And as a member organization of of SASFED, we give input in terms of what we lobby for as an industry. Of course, it will differ depending on what the policy is at the time. For instance, we're not all on the same page as practitioners in the industry or as organizations in the industry on the, for instance, the Copyright Act. We're not on the same as a page in terms of the performance bill because it doesn't serve all of us the same way. Yes. However, we have an opportunity through the federation to speak to issues that really affect the industry and to lobby government to change certain policies to ensure, for instance, that women's interests are represented. Recently, when the Minister of Employment and Labour, Thula Singesi, put out a blue paper for comments, in terms of the Labour Relations Act, in terms of the conditions of employment for women, right? I mean, in the industry as a whole, the code of conduct, let me say it the right way, the code of conduct, we gave input as SWIFT in terms of how that should be shaped so that it benefits women in the industry. One of the things that we want to make sure that is gazetted is really the working conditions of women. The other one that wanted to be changed, that the minister wanted to change, was in terms of amending the basic conditions of employment, certain clauses within the basic conditions of employment. We wanted to make sure that women in the industry are represented, they get maternity leave, they are protected according to the law, because we don't get those benefits as freelancers. Those benefits only extend to employees, and we are contract workers in the industry. So our submissions to the minister was that we need to be recognized the same way as employees are recognized, even though we are contract workers or freelancers in the industry, by extending the same benefits to us, whether it's for maternity pay or leave. The only exception was UIF, which we still are debating with the minister. But that's how, as SWIFT, we really make sure that whenever there's supposed to be input on some of the proposed amendments to law, that the voice of women is represented in those. We also do the same through our federation, which is SASFED, to ensure that the voices of women are representative and are represented in those amendments. So we do participate a lot in terms of ensuring as SWIFT that the laws reflect and protect the rights of women in the industry.
Thank you for that. I also want to reflect on the successes of Bollywood, right? I'm drawing this from the existence of BRICS, as well as China being a dominant economy. To what degree does SWIFT ensure that you leverage on the strengths of these sister countries that we have under BRICS, but at the same time, it just doesn't become about investor dictating, but it becomes an equal partnership where Africa has content and the scale, and maybe the Asian neighbors that I spoke about have the capital, right, that is necessary. How does SWIFT engage relations at this level, but at the same time make sure that the content that you churn out is export worthy?
I think Jacintha, on co-productions, that's yours.
I think, we do have a few co-productions in place with different countries, but the biggest, barrier, or at least the issue, is that women have not accessed those relationships or those deals. The NFF, who actually administers those co-productions, when I spoke to them a couple of months ago, they were saying that there are almost no women accessing co-production deals. So, that is an area that we do need to look into, because that's really where you start talking about economic freedom and empowerment. It's not just a job, it's you as a woman, your company is working with another company. And that's really where you are creating opportunities, but you're also creating wealth for yourself. So it isn't an area that has been focused on, unfortunately, and there is such a large opportunity for women to get into that space. Again, collaboration, Zanele mentioned it, it's key. Collaboration is key, and that's what we need to get right. Thank you.
May I just quickly revert back to the issue of transformation? Because again, when we speak of access, when we speak of equitable distribution of opportunities, we can't help but also look at the issue of how transformed or how transformable is the sector, particularly when you look at women only and the previous, or rather the historic imbalances that exist in South Africa? How does SWIFT ensure there's equitable distribution of opportunity, but at the same time the sector transforms to have at least positive biases toward women?
That will come to me, right?
Zanele, you go. I will add, but you go first.
Yeah, I mean, let's start just with our organization. We do not in any way shy away from the fact that, historically, this industry is quite biased towards firstly white males, but also then secondly white females. So SWIFT does prioritize transformation, mainly focusing on women of color within the organization. So that's what we prioritize as SWIFT. But also as an organization, when we are on different platforms, for instance, the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture Reference Group, where we represent SWIFT and the interest of SWIFT, for instance, in the formation of the Transformation Charter, we make sure that transformation, particularly transformation in terms of inclusivity and representation of women, that is there, and we ensure that our interests are represented as women. So for us, that is very important, that whatever we work on, there is emphasis on transformation, particularly in representing, particularly in the inclusivity of women of color specifically, but also in terms of diversity of women, and we don't stop just with women, but we also ensure that other people that previously disadvantaged are also included in those processes. For instance, in the formation of the Transformation Charter, that those interests are represented, whether it's for children, rights of children, rights of people with disability, and all of that. We ensure that that's even in the definition of transformation itself, that it is that broad, that it's not only about just women, but women of color and other people who are marginalized, or that's what we do as SWIFT.
Would it be Jacintha is also going to be speaking on ARIF, so that when she shares a point, she also adds that exciting project? It's not.
I'm not, but I just wanted to add the issue about transformation in our industry is that once you put people of color in a position of power, right, when you make them directors, producers, and they have the ability to ensure that there is diversity, that's when true transformation happens. Right now, the issue is that we have white people, mostly men and white women, that have these positions, right? So they don't have the consciousness to employ Black people as HODs. And I'll tell you, I had a conversation with a white male, middle-aged man who's in the industry, international, and his thinking was that we need to be patient. We need to take the time and be upskilled. And I said to him, we've been doing this for 25 years. How much more do you want us to wait? He said, no, but you don't understand. The industry works like that. You've got to first get your skill and then you get the opportunity. And I said, I disagree. We've been trained and mentored for 25 years. How much more? So for me, the transformation, until you start breaking down that structure, where these companies, these big companies that is completely white, and I feel like it's government. They need to put pressure on these organizations to say, you want the rebate, where's your transformation? If you want to access the 35%, the 40% rebate, what does your company look like? And I'm not talking about fronting here. I'm talking about true transformation, where there is a Black partner that is participating. He's not sitting on an island somewhere, because that happens, right? So And one of the other things this gentleman said to me is that, he's working on a project where there is a gaffer who's white and everyone else in his department is white. But no worries, this man is in his 50s and soon he'll retire and then the black person can get the position. And I said, so we must wait for white people to retire or die before we get those positions? So I'm very passionate about that. And it speaks to what Zanele said. We know what we're doing. We have the skill. We've been doing it. Rea's directed. Zanele has been an executive producer for years. I'm a producer. We don't need to be shadowed, mentored, or upskilled. We have the skill. Yeah, thank you.
Is it Rea who's qualified to share a bit on Arif?
So we have an ongoing partnership with Arif where our partnership is really about giving the opportunity for films that have been made by female practitioners to have a slot. Those are some of the benefits of being part of SWIFT. And it's really not just with Arif. It's just like with Arif, we've legitimized it. We're working towards these partnerships with different festivals and markets that we are able to give a benefit to our members that through being part of SWIFT, we can allocate you a slot for your film to be showcased at some of these festivals without going through the usual processes of applying, paying a fee, and so on. And this is not to say also any film, anything that you've just made will have the opportunity to be filmed. It still has to adhere to the standards that the festivals are looking for, and it will be curated. So if we have 20 filmmakers in our member group who want to submit their films, only a select few will be chosen to have what we have called with Arif a SWIFT hour. So it's not necessarily just 1 hour of playing films. Like I said, it could be a variety of different types of films with different durations. But what we are saying is that they will have a slot that is allocated in a cinema that is allocated to these films. And there's certain conversations like what we're doing here that will be had with SWIFT members, whether it's around topics of advocacy, what we've been doing with intimacy, training and coordination, and some of the other things that SWIFT really have put their energies into creating certain programs and certain things that we want to bring to light. So our relationship with Arif has been very exciting from the get-go. They've been very open to a partnership, to working with us, to empowering women, to empowering and showcasing films that are made by women, and to keep offering us this opportunity to work with our member group to bring their films and their voices to the forefront.
And we know that obviously the hour that we've had for discussion went by quite swiftly, but next year I know you have a partnership with Isipetu. Please share that and kindly elaborate on who can participate. Where is it going to be held? Is it going to be online again? Are there going to be physical attendance or platforms of engagement and such like?
Okay, so this is a proposed community outreach initiative that SWIFT wants to partner with Isipetu on, and it's for aspiring female filmmakers from 20 years onwards. So there's no cut-off age limit. So females at any age will have the opportunity of hopefully being part of this project. And it's pegged to be rolled out in 2022, and it will involve 2 of SWIFT's subcommittees, namely Skills and Mentorship and the Sisterhood subcommittees. So we're looking at between 8 to 10 month-long training programs that'll be very similar to the 3-month program that SWIFT just rolled out across the 4 provinces with the PESP program. So a suggestion for the core areas of focus for this 1-month program will be on research and development. So we'll take a week on that and actually explain to the participants what research and development entails and why it's so important. And then we're looking at script writing, where we teach them how to develop their skills on script writing. And that'll also comprise of like a week's worth of sessions. Then we're looking at the different aspects of pre-production and production. What goes into pre-production? What goes into production? What are the different areas of production that we have? And then finally, we end off with a week of post-production and what that entails. So it's very similar to the 3-month program that we ran, but it'll be condensed so that we're able to upskill as many females as we can in the basic skills of filmmaking. And it's targeted specifically for the communities that don't have the opportunity to go to formal colleges, that cannot afford to go to these colleges. So we're giving these ladies an opportunity to come through and, come for this program, and we will select you and you get to upskill yourself. So even if you're just an aspiring filmmaker that has no skills, come onto this program and learn a little bit of skills so that you have the platform to advance yourself further where you want to see yourself in the future. And that's basically what is proposed for 2022. And that will fall under the skills and mentorship banner, where they will work closely with Isipeto to put these programs together. And once the films are completed, then that's where Sisterhood Cinema will come in, where they will partner with Isipeto and DIF during the film festival to showcase the best films from those month-long programs that we were able to create. And we will showcase them at the DIF festival under the Isipeto banner, as well as showcase the short films from DIF Swift members themselves. So it's we are benefiting two groups of ladies, Swift members as well as non-Swift members. But our point of running these programs is so that we can show these ladies in the communities why it would be to their advantage to join Swift and become members, because there are so many opportunities that will open up for them. We have a lot of job postings on the group, and if they just have the basic knowledge and the skills, we can try and get them into internships where they can grow their skills and develop, and then go into the industry and become professionals. So it's a very exciting initiative that I'm hoping is going to be very successful in the years to come.
I'm almost tempted to engage hormone replacement therapy just so I can participate next year as well. But in the absence of that, kindly share your concluding remarks as we wrap up our session, please. Just briefly.
Do you want me to do it or anybody?
Anybody. You can just take turns, just briefly though. Be as quick as lightning.
Okay, sure. So I think Zanele can talk about the different types of memberships that are offered to our two ladies that become Swift members, and she can take it from here.
Sure.
Okay. I think more than anything, the reason behind the session is really to encourage women in our industry to join Swift, because there's more that we can do as a collective as women than we can do individually, and Swift has shown the power of women coming together to bring about change in the industry. And tomorrow we'll talk about this Safety Contact Officer program in that session. And it is because of the collective of Swift that has even become a possibility to make sure that we have, safe working spaces for women. So this is really to encourage women to come together, to join Swift, so that we can together change this industry and the environment that we work in for the better for women. There are different memberships. We have a membership for students. So if you are a student, you can join Swift, and that is about 150 Rand per year that you pay. Correct me if I'm wrong, ladies. I haven't looked at these numbers in a while. I'm so used to what we pay as professionals, which is 350 per annum at Swift, and then we also have membership for corporates. So corporates that want to join Swift can join for 1,000 Rand, and all of the information will be on our website. It's currently down at the moment and is being redesigned, but as soon as the site is up again, prospective members or people that are interested in joining Swift can go and look at what Swift has to offer, but really, really to encourage women to really join, and so that we can work together to change the industry and make sure that more and more women are represented and are visible, not just, but are visible in the key positions on productions.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, time is against us and it is fast spent. I'm going to have to say thank you very much, ladies of Swift, for swiftly engaging with me on these important matters. And I wish you everything of the best with tomorrow's session, as well as all the endeavors of Swift, as well as all women in film. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for engaging us. And
thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.